Hey guys, this is Ron the Airsoft 101. Today I'm going to be doing a quick tutorial video. Basically I'm going to show you how to put in your high-speed gear set for basically your high-speed ratio to make your gun shoot faster for, say, CQB. And I'm also going to show you how to put a shim set on your gear set and making sure you do a good shim job. So to start out, you're going to start out with your very bottom gear on the gearbox, which would be called the spur gear. This is the spur gear. So I already have a shim on the bottom of the spur gear. So basically you're just going to stick it on there. Alright? Then what you're going to do is you're going to take a second shim, put it on the top, and then you're going to check it. Now how you check these things is by placing the other side of the gearbox onto the top of the gear. Or basically line up the gear again. And then you spin it. And when you spin it, you check and see if there's any movement, if the gear moves up and down or doesn't move at all. You want it to have a little bit of wiggle room, and as you can see that time it wasn't moving at all. So you want it to have a little bit of wiggle room, but not to the extent that it's moving a lot, because if it moves a lot, then that basically means that your gear is going to be wearing in places that you don't want to, and it'll strip and the gears won't last as long. So that's a pretty good one right there. Looks like it doesn't even need a top shim. So next I'm going to move on to the bevel gear. This is the gear that the motor touches. The motor touches right there. This touches the spur gear. So let's stick that one on. I have one shim on each side. Let's test it. Alright. And let me look in here. Looks like we got pretty good shim job on that right there. Now this is your sector gear. Now I said last time that you can do something and shape off the last two teeth, and which this one is. It's actually stripped, but it happened to have two teeth that are missing off the back. So basically, the two teeth that are missing right there, and basically what that does is it short strokes your piston. Now short stroking basically means that when this piston gets pulled back by the gear, it's going to start, but then it's going to release earlier than it usually would. It's going to release two teeth earlier, which means it basically doesn't come back all the way, making it faster. Now I failed to mention a couple of things on the last video. Another thing you can do to make your ROF faster is a fully carbonated piston and piston head. If you have the aluminum piston head and metal teeth, it's going to be like throwing a sledgehammer. If you just have a just full polycarbonated piston and piston head, it's going to be throwing like a screwdriver, practically. I mean, just for perception and stuff. Yeah. So basically, the lighter you go, the faster you're going to be shooting, and you can short stroke it with the sector gear. One thing I do suggest doing is putting a sector gear clip on your gun, your AEG, due to the fact that you could have some feeding problems how fast you're going. Basically what the sector gear clip does is the tap plate, when you have your tap plate on, it gets pulled back to load in a BB by this little thing. Basically what happens with the sector gear is it creates like a giant circle around that little part, and it keeps the tap plate back for a longer amount of time, so that ensures BB loading. That's what I have in my saw right now, is a tap plate, or sector gear clip. And the other thing I forgot to mention is to raise your ROF, you can also throw in a turbo motor. Now this is a Matrix 3000 turbo. It's pretty good motor. I'm going to check and make sure you guys can see this. It's a pretty good motor. Very magnetic. It just snapped every single gear out of the gearbox, which was pretty cool. But yes, it's a very magnetic gear. Motor. It goes very, very fast. I used to have it in my saw, but then I moved to my LiPo. But basically this is a high-speed gear ratio right here, which basically means the ratios on all gears are different. There's standard, high-speed, and high torque. If you're going to run an M120 with a LiPo, you're going to want a high torque gear set. If you're just going to run an M100 and a 9.6, run with a Turbo 3000 and a high-speed gear set. And if you're going to run with a LiPo again, run an M130, you're going to run a standard ratio gear set and a AMP 5000 torque up motor, because those also slow it down a bunch. So basically, that's how you shim your gearbox after you're all said and done. I haven't even done the top part for the sector gear. Up. So let's check it and see. Oh yeah. Now on my saw, I have a perfect shim set. I did a great job on my shim job basically, and I can get 5 or 6 revolutions of the full gear set with one pull of my hand. Now that's really flippin' good. I'm not gonna lie, shimming a gearbox to be that perfect takes a long time. It was a tedious process I did. Oh my god, it took forever, but it was worth it because a good shim job ensures that your gun is going to be quiet. The gear, you're not going to have any wear and tear on your gears, so your gears will last a lot longer. And if you tune your motor, I'll show you guys how to do that in another video. If you tune your motor, it's all you're going to hear out of your gearbox is the pop of the piston hitting the cylinder head, which would be this. This is the cylinder head right here. This whole little piece right here is the cylinder head. But all you're going to hear is the pop of the piston against the cylinder head if you do a good job. And if you tune your motor and do a good shim job, in which I did. And that's why my saw is actually pretty quiet. It may be loud due to the fact that the piston is popping against the cylinder head so many times. So that's how you put in your high-speed gear set. How you can put in your M110 or M100, any spring at all, is basically you're going to keep this bad boy on. I don't have a tap plate on it or anything. So you have your piston in and everything. It's backwards. Oops. So you have your piston in, and basically what you're going to do is in your gearbox is you have a spring guide. You're going to take your M100 and M110. This works with all springs. You're going to first stick your M100 or M110 in. You're going to grab a small screwdriver and stick that in the back of the spring guide. All spring guides have holes on the back. These are 2 spring guides. They always have holes on the back. Then basically what you're going to do is you're going to make sure your piston is in line and push in your spring. And then basically you're going to line up these 2 little nicks right here and pop it in. Then you're going to put on your top side of your gear shell, and basically you're going to hold on real tight, and then you're going to adjust everything so it fits in. This is basically a whole gearbox without the wire set or piston and piston head or tap plate and air nozzle. This is basically your whole gearbox. These are the main components of your gearbox. And that M110 or M100, depending on what you use, can be the difference between super high speed or just mediocre high speed. But again, this is just how to install a high-speed gear set, how to install your spring, and this is a version 2 gearbox if you guys didn't know this. Basically, it goes the same with every single gearbox. Shim it, do the same thing with every single gearbox, spin the gears in some sort of way, and check them. Always check them. And you can do a really good shim job and have your gun shoot quiet and have your gears last a long time. I have element gears, which aren't the best gears in my saw, but they've been working for about 2 years now. And they're really good. They're a standard ratio gear type, and they're really good. They've lasted forever. That's how you put in your gear set and how you shim your gear set, and high-speed gear set to be specific. And what short stroking is. Again, short stroking, in case you guys didn't hear earlier, is when basically you start pulling back your piston with your sector gear, but since you shaved off your 2 last teeth, it releases early, so it doesn't have as much tension, and so it's closer to the gear, closer to the cylinder head, and closer to making a quicker shot. That's simple short stroking. That's how you can make it high speed, but due to that, you lose your FPS because you're not moving, the spring isn't moving as fast. So that's a loss of FPS, but a gain of ROF. In the next couple of videos, I'll tell you guys what I personally think is the best setup, especially for what I airsoft. I airsoft in open fields. I run a M130 spring, standard ratio gear set, a light poly battery, and a King Arms 10 metal tooth piston and Bravo aluminum piston head. So that's and an AMP 5000 torque up motor. So that's basically the basics of shimming and putting a brand new gear set in, and that's how you're going to and that's how short stroking is, and how to make your gun's ROF go up. This is Ron the Airsoft 101, And I'll see you guys later in the next video. Tell me how you guys like it. Yeah, see you guys later.